Hello YouTubers, and welcome to another episode of DrCassette's workshop. Today we're going to take a look inside this. This is a NECKERMANN hi-fi stereo receiver. I found this at the dump, and obviously it is from the 70s, but still I'm not going to keep this because this is a really cheap unit. I mean, look at this dial. Doesn't that look cheap? I'm sure there are some burned out light bulbs in there, but still it looks really cheap. And the other thing is that this smells extremely like cigarette smoke. I mean, this must have been owned by smokers. It smells horrible, this thing, really. Let's take a quick look at the features. We have headphone jack, balance, bass, treble, volume, on and off switch, a quadro sound switch, which switches on some electronic circuit that generates a signal for some rear speakers. We have a meter, which has a burned out bulb, and this crappy looking stereo indicator light. I mean, look at that, it's just just lit by a burned out light bulb, I guess. It has a hiss filter. You can turn off the loudness right here. Mono stereo switch. And here is the selector. Long wave, medium wave, short wave, FM, phono, and tape. And that's all. No other inputs. Has a couple of preset stations right here. 5 presets and the station on the dial. And right here is the tuning knob. And that's all. The back part was made of cheap wood, as you can see. And I have the power cord, a fuse, speaker outputs for rear and front, the label here, then DIN jacks for phono, crystal and magnetic, and for tape a DIN jack, and then the antenna inputs. It really looks like this machine has been taken apart in the past because some screws are missing. And now I'll try to take it apart. And this is the inside. And I honestly have to say I'm surprised by how well this is made. See, has a nice big transformer. The power amplifier seems to give quite a lot of power, because the heatsinks are pretty big. You see all the circuit boards. You can also reach them from the underside, so you don't have to take them out. That's really nice. And all the chassis was made of this nice and thick metal. It seems like somebody else has been in here before me, because as you can see, the stereo light is not burned out, it's completely missing. Also, the lights in here, which actually light up the dial, and also the light which lights up the mini dials of the preset stations. All those lights are missing. Also, the only light that still works is not even an original light. You can see, it's a replacement. You can see there are those holders for those fuse type lamps. Now, this really isn't a fuse type lamp. Another interesting detail is there must have been a smaller unit which didn't even had a tape input. So you can see here there is a space for a jack, but there is not a jack in there, obviously. And as you can see, or as you can not see because it's too dark, on the circuit board, there is space for putting in a DIN jack. You can see here these two wires. These two wires are running to the tape input, to the record output of the DIN jack. So that means there must have been a smaller model which didn't have the DIN jack here, had it here, and the DIN jack here was only a record output, not an input. So let's take this apart. And seriously, I'm already getting a headache because of the extreme smell of cigarettes. Now I found out all the voltages of the transformer, so I can take that thing out. As you can see, I took out all the parts of the power supply. So now let's move on and take off the faceplate. And here we have the faceplate. And what a surprise! If you turn this around, you can see front side is all plastic, but behind of that it's metal. Man, oh man. I mean, that's really a waste of material. And here is the unit without the faceplate. And another interesting part has been taken out, the tuning capacitor. And this tuning capacitor is really interesting because it does not only contain the two capacitors for AM, nope, it also contains this. It's some sort of potentiometer, and that used to control the FM tuning. So this is really interesting for building little little AM radios, because you can use this potentiometer to control a little meter as a tuning dial. And now let's take apart the faceplate. I mean, I already told you this does not only contain one part, it contains a lot of parts. First part is the plastic with the dial on it. So you can see, it can be pulled out sideways. Quite complicated to do that. Here it is, pulled out. Then these parts here can be pulled out like that. So you can see they have these things on there, and there were clamps on these things so that they couldn't fall out. I took those off already, so we can simply pull them out like this and this. Those are made of plastic. Here we finally have the metal part, which you've seen before. And this is what remains. And here it is, back in its crappy wooden case. And of course, this will be going back to the dump. And now let's take a look at the useful parts. Here is the first one, the circuit board of the amplifier. I took that out for parts. Then the nice transformer, the very interesting tuning capacitor, a bunch of knobs and buttons, and a lot of different screws, fuses, special parts like that, this little coil, DIN jacks, a nice analog VU meter, and a lot more. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video.